Good morning. That is only one scenario of many that the Buono family might have talked about while facing their major crisis of losing everything they had built over their past 20 years. It's anyone's guess what they discussed during those desperate days, but it was a severe concrete reality facing Victor Francis going to prison for many years. The newspapers throughout America were following these many updates of the death of Tony Mirabile, and they would keep coming out in black print practically every day of the week. That is only one scenario of many that the Buono family might have talked about while facing their major crisis of losing everything they had built over their past 20 years. It's anyone's guess what they discussed during those desperate days, but it was a severe, concrete reality facing Victor Francis going to prison for many years. The newspapers throughout America were following these many updates of the death of Tony Mirabile, and they would keep coming out in black print practically every day of the week. Victor Charles was acting at the Old Globe Theater during their Shakespearean Festival of 1959, and it is said that the talent scout Jerry Bloom from Warner Brothers was first to discover him playing Falstaff in Henry IV, Part 1, and he ushered him up to Hollywood. This is how Victor Charles's history is presented in current internet bios of how he supposedly first went up to Hollywood to become a television and motion picture actor. It's partially correct that Jerry Bloom did see him playing Falstaff that year, but the truth is, Victor Charles most likely had gone up to Hollywood before playing Falstaff in the Old Globe Theater's Shakespearean Festival of 1959. Victor Charles was an equity professional actor when playing Falstaff that year, and he had received his equity card in Hollywood before Jerry Bloom ever sat in a seat watching him playing Falstaff in 1959. I will explain more thoroughly on his rise up to Hollywood. It definitely wasn't Jerry Bloom who first sent him there, but it had to be others who truly put him onto a professional path to stardom in Hollywood. On July 5th, 1959, the Old Globe Theater had their Shakespearean Festival employed with all professional equity acting company, and they never went back to their traditional non-equity status ever again. On August 11th, 1959, in the Los Angeles Times newspaper, it printed, "Romeo and Juliet Festival Highlight. For the first time in the festival's history, professional actors receiving Actors' Equity Scale from the strong nucleus of the casts, an arrangement made possible partially through a Ford Foundation grant. Most of the major roles in all three productions are assumed by this group of experienced performers who have Broadway and off-Broadway credits, as well as television background. Newest member of Actors' Equity in the company, 20 years old Victor Buono of San Diego, showed great promise in the widely varied roles of Falstaff, Prince of Verona, and Holofernes. The 8-week festival continues through August 30th. This is proof that Victor Charles was already a working professional actor when playing Falstaff in 1959. These are the plays Victor Charles performed before July 7th, 1959, when the Old Globe Theatre went equity. Aladdin in October 16, 1954, and Hans Brinker and the Silver Skates at the San Diego Junior Theatre on November 13, 1954, Come Slowly, Eden, Hamlet, and the Barretts of Wimpole Street at St. Augustine High School in 1955, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and Volpone at the Old Globe Theatre in 1956. Victor Charles was in The Betrayal and Jenny Kissed Me at the University of San Diego in 1957. Witness for the prosecution: The Tempest, King Lear, Night of the Burning Pestle, and The Man Who Came to Dinner at the Old Globe Theatre in June 1957. Victor Charles might have gone up to Hollywood between December 30th, 1958 and April of 1959. He may have acted in at least 2 or more television programs at Warner Brothers within that time period in order to be given a SAG membership and an equity card before July 7th, 1959. So, the questions remain: who are the ones who are responsible for opening the doors for Victor Charles's rise up to Hollywood? There were only 3 men that I know of that had the capabilities of connecting Warner Brothers with Victor Charles between 1958 and 1959. Those 3 candidates are Victor Francis, Father John R. Ahern, and director Craig Knoll. I already said Victor Francis may have had connections with mafia members who could contact Warner Brothers to bring Victor Charles to Hollywood for a screen test in the months of 1958 and in early 1959. When Father John R. Ahern first heard about the crisis taking place in Victor Charles's family, he may have contacted various influential people who were connected to Warner Brothers. Putting it simply, Father John R. Ahern was Victor Charles's mentor, and he would have probably gone to any lengths to help the Buono family financial crisis. Father Ahern had connections in all corners of commerce throughout Southern California, and he most likely knew associates in Hollywood as well. Craig Knoll, the director of the Old Globe Theatre, is the 3rd candidate who may have helped Victor Charles to become a professional actor. He was a soldier in World War II, and when the war ended, he was working for a short time at 20th Century Fox as a screen test director. On April 27, 2015, there was an article written in the Ranch and Coast magazine in San Diego about Craig Knoll's life, and it printed: Delza Martin, longtime Globe board member and active with the barn players that preceded the community theater, knew exactly who that director should be. She lost no time traveling with her husband to Los Angeles to persuade Knoll to return to the Globe as its artistic director. It wasn't easy to persuade Knoll. He was busy at 20th Century Fox, where as dialogue director he oversaw many screen tests, including the screen tests of Marilyn Monroe and Shelley Winters. It was Craig Noe, his mentor, who encouraged Victor Charles to act at the Old Globe Theatre. In 1956, Victor Charles won the Globe Atlas Award for Best Actor of the Year in the production of Volpone. It is clear to me that when Craig Noe may have read the newspaper on December 30th, 1958, and seen the name of Victor Francis Buono being a suspect to the murder of Tony Mirabile, he may have talked with Victor Charles immediately. Then, in hearing the financial crisis facing the Buono family, he possibly was the one who contacted Warner Brothers and other people he knew to get Victor Charles a screen test. Whoever it was who opened the door for Victor Charles to become a professional actor in Hollywood will most likely remain a secret of who was holding the golden key. I do know this, it wasn't the talent scout Jerry Bloom who discovered him, but it was probably one of these three most important men in his life who invested their talents and wisdom into making Victor Charles Buono a star in Hollywood.